Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Here on New Year's Eve, we are at the end of 2024. I am Joe. Welcome to Grab Your Gear. Here with Jack Windsor, as always. Jack, thanks for coming in on a Christmas Eve. Of course, Jack, you are the Windsor Reports. Give all your credentials, the Ohio Press Network, the Windsor Report, 98.9 The Answer, and your podcast is the Windsor Report, and people can get that where podcasts are sold.
Perfect. Thank you for that introduction. It's great to be here. It's been an incredible year, and I'm really looking forward to 2025.
Did you have a nice Christmas?
It was a super fantastic Christmas. Of course, we have a blended family, and Whitney and I had our kids with us at the beginning of the Christmas break from school, and in Christmas Day, and now they're shipped off to their other respective parents. But it was a great holiday time with family, and then of course, I love giving gifts. That's one of my love languages, so I appreciated seeing the excitement on the kids' faces when they open some of their gifts, and then they love Jesus and they recognize that's the reason that we celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, I lecture everybody in my home on it, and then we open gifts, and we watch 9,000 episodes of A Christmas Story.
Hey, why not? I we've talked about this,
Yes.
but I'm a big Christmas Vacation guy.
Yes, Peter Billingsley Lowe as a little child in Cleveland, Ohio, in that story is
Great
still
story.
still a good one. So. We want to talk, and this will be a short show, but was just kind of thinking as you reflect back on 2024. For us, I enjoyed because we started this program, Grab
Yes.
Your Gear. We launched the Merit Shop Alliance, has gotten stronger. We're reaching out to other states. I think that for us has been what we'll remember 2024 for. As far as stories go, outside of Trump winning, and feeling like the country is taking a different direction it does. What do you see as the monumental moments of 2024?
Well, I had to take a couple notes here, so I'm just going to reference my note sheet because it's been, one of the things that I struggle with is I get so in the weeds in the present. Sometimes it's hard for me to look back and go, oh, yeah, we did that in this and the other thing.
Well, just keep your notes short because this is New Year's
Yeah.
Eve morning. I don't want to be here counting down the New Year.
Fair. So if I had to list them, I think one of the top ones, maybe fifth top, would be the reporting we did on foreign money in Ohio elections. That actually ties back.
Act Blue? Is that
Act Blue is part of that. That's going to be revealed more in 2025. But I'm talking more specifically about, and this tied back to 2023, and then change happened in 2024. But in 2023, we uncovered that there was money flowing into efforts to amend the state constitution from funds that were bankrolled by a Swiss billionaire. And many people go, well, it's already illegal for foreigners to donate money. It is if it's a candidate campaign, but there was a loophole in Ohio law that allowed that to happen. So our reporting in late 2023 uncovered it, and then as we pinged statewide elected officials in 2024 and said, hey, what's going on here? That turned into the Ohio General Assembly passing a bill and the governor signing a bill that now outlaws foreign money in what they call ballot initiatives, so efforts to amend the state constitution or citizen-led legislative efforts. And so that was probably one of the bigger things that we've done in the past 24 months.
Okay. I remember the story you did with Apprentice Isabella where you went to Springfield, and it was all about cats and dogs and everything. But then you kind of went over there and it looked like you stepped in just a mud pile of mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
Really wasn't about cats and dogs, was it?
No, actually, that's number one on my list.
Is it?
So we're going to jump right to number one, which is fine. Springfield, Ohio absolutely was the biggest thing that we've done, and it might still be the biggest thing that we do in 2025. There's still stuff going on over there, and we're going to continue that reporting. But, this came on the national radar because of comments about pets being eaten. And that really is where most news organizations decided to focus their coverage. Princess Isabella and I went, though, to Springfield.
It's Apprentice Isabella. She's not a princess yet.
Did I say princess?
Yeah, it's apprentice.
Apprentice. Well, I meant to say apprentice.
Well, if she's princess, we have to get her a tiara.
Well, we should do that too.
All right, we'll get her a tiara.
So Isabella.
She'll wear the
and
tiara.
I too.
Yeah, she'll wear the tiara at the next office function.
Perfect. We went over to Springfield, and what we uncovered was the thing that we'll report on more in 2025. We wanted to figure out systemically what was driving this mass migration of people.
Because the numbers were off the chart. I mean,
insane. I mean, this is a 15 to 25,000 people.
Yeah, which is like a town itself.
Descending on a population that was around 50,000
Yep.
previously. That is a significant number of people. And so systemically, what allowed that to happen? And then we looked at the facets of that community, things like social services, education, public safety, healthcare, right? All of these things, the job market, the housing market, and how they were impacted, that reporting was some of the most important reporting that we've done. And my heart hurts today thinking about it, because you may recall one of the videos we did was in that soup kitchen with the founder of that soup kitchen. And he said, come wintertime, I'm really concerned because we have a growing homeless population because of the housing issues there. And they're kind of tangentially tied to all the other issues. There are people they don't have a place to go, and they don't have food, and they don't have warmth, and it's a really sad situation.
Come January 20th, do you have a feeling ICE will make a visit to Springfield, Ohio?
I have a feeling that ICE will make a visit to Springfield, Ohio, perhaps, but I also have a hunch, and more than a hunch, that there are people in Springfield, Ohio that are ready and willing to fight any effort from the Trump administration to deport some people that have migrated to Springfield, Ohio.
If you listen to the border czar, he says that if anybody wants to interfere with federal actions, they will be arrested. And because he said that includes mayors.
Well, we call those things crimes.
Yeah.
And so if you commit a crime, then absolutely. And by the way, the mayor there has yet to return my request for a
That
meeting.
started in what, July?
Yes.
So he's only 6 months old.
And the city manager only bunts me over to the communications director, who never returns my phone call.
You going to go back to Springfield, do you think?
I will 100% be back in Springfield.
Okay. I enjoyed that coverage because you were the only one I really remember going, and the local media just kept repeating whatever they heard. You were the only one that kind of said, okay, cats and dogs over here, what's really going on?
And I think what we uncovered that you might hear more of, I was really honored and blessed to be offered an opportunity to go on with Sebastian Gorka, who's now been reappointed to the Trump administration, been on Newsmax, talking about this, what's really going on there. And I think we might see federal investigations, Ohio investigations, is what I call reverse offshoring. For a long time, companies had a black eye because they would send their construction of facilities overseas, do it for pennies on the dollar, employ, and what we'd read about in the press, well, they're employing slave labor, they're paying them 10 cents and a bowl of rice. Well, essentially what they're doing is they're hijacking the Biden-Harris open border, and they're bringing those people in, and it's essentially the same dynamic. It's just reverse offshoring. Now those folks are here in our communities. They're not being assimilated, and they're being funded by some federal programs. They're taking some jobs, and you have businesses that are now being built on the back of this reverse offshoring mechanism.
A couple of other stories that caught your attention?
Yeah, thank you for getting me back on track with that. Let's see. I think the other one, there have been a series of stories we've spun out as kind of a watchdog on Ohio schools. And I know this might seem like a small story. I think it's a big story because it ties to a bigger worldview issue that we're going to continue to confront, is that Olentangy Orange principal who wrote the newsletter.
That made national news. This is not just a local story.
It did. It made national news, and it resulted in her written reprimand and a requirement for her to do some things into 2025. Because,
and just to recap, she wrote after the election.
She was grieving Trump's loss. I mean, that's
But where did
the
she
long
do
and
it
short.
publicly?
She wrote it in a newsletter that went out to the entire staff, a couple hundred people. And I got feedback from families, from other educators in that district that said, talk about being marginalized and castigated. Like, why is this a dark time? I mean, the majority of people in that district voted for Trump. And so there was a lot of concern. But I think bringing light to situations like that in schools, continues to be part of the important work that we're doing.
Do you remember her name? Do you have that? I just remember the.
Oh my gosh, isn't that terrible?
Yeah, I don't
I'll
remember her
recall
name.
it in just a moment. Monica, I want to say Asher,
But that was the principal of
was the
Olentangy
principal.
Orange in Powell, Ohio.
Powell, Ohio.
Powell, Ohio.
Powell or Lewis Center, one of the two.
See, I wonder if
Delaware
she
County.
is going to be one of the people that goes kicking and screaming as DEI starts to be phased out of the edge. If Christopher Rufo has anything to do with it, the gentleman we interviewed at one point, Tinfoil Ted and I went and interviewed him at Hillsdale
brilliant.
College. He has been one of the more effective messaging people on just the hypocrisy and the racism embedded in DEI programs. And I wonder if this principal would be one of those still defending what is incredibly a very twisted program.
It is.
Real fast, you guys. I found it. It is Lewis Center, Ohio,
It is.
and it is Monica Asher.
Hey, I got lucky. Monica Asher.
Okay.
So, the other story that I think has been significant, two others. One is the coverage that we did, and it also involved this organization on Ohio Issue 1 this past election cycle. And for those of you who don't know, Issue 1, it would have codified gerrymandering into the state constitution, but gerrymandering that favors the Democrat Party and progressives.
Would have created a group of people that would have become. It's kind of what they did with some police departments, right? Where you bring citizen groups in who have absolutely no knowledge of policing,
Right.
to oversee policing. So then you would bring in a group of people who are probably intellectually dishonest and will be, brought in from academia, good Lord, and other places to
Activist
oversee
groups.
something that they really wouldn't know how to monitor. That's what.
The short of it is they would color the maps blue.
Yes.
This is Eric Holder, which is Obama's former AG. It's his type of, activism that played out here in Ohio. And most news organizations weren't calling it what it was. We took a look at who's funding it, where has it been done before, and what are the outcomes. And we were very stubborn about continuing to tell the truth about that. And so, we revealed to Ohioans who's funding it, what happened in Michigan when this was rolled out, and what can you expect here. And interestingly, the people who wanted it to pass outspent, I think it was like 8 or 10 to 1, the people who didn't want it to pass, and it still failed. And, and this is not a pat on my back. I'm actually saying this is genuinely a pat on the back of voters. I was covering a Bernie Moreno event in the lead up to that U.S. Senate race between him and Sherrod Brown in Mount Vernon, Ohio. And Troy Balderson walked up to me, Congressman Troy Balderson. And he said, "Hey, I just want to thank you for your coverage of Issue 1. He said, "It's making a difference." And so I thought, wow, okay, so what we're doing is, it's being consumed by people on Capitol Hill. And that helped me appreciate, because sometimes, Joe, we work a lot and we don't really, you go, is anybody watching? Is anybody listening? Is this making an impact?
That money that went into Issue 1 and the money that went into the Kamala Harris campaign are two stories that I will remember, because that campaign, how many, Issue 1 was millions and millions and millions of dollars.
I want to say, don't quote me on this, 30 million, 32 million?
Against probably 2, 3. I mean, there wasn't a lot.
Ish.
Ish.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Harris campaign, 1.5 billion in 12 weeks?
There's the story of 2025, one of the stories.
You couldn't buy the votes, is my point with both of those situations. That is a lesson. So when politicians continue to take money, you have to understand, eventually there is a point where you can't buy people's votes anymore.
The laws of diminishing marginal returns. You're just not going to get more votes.
Because eventually people look at reality. And it took us a while, I think, in this country.
Longer.
But those are the two money and politics things that I think stick with me, because it goes against conventional wisdom.
It does. Well, and I think what you'll see, and you alluded to it earlier, and then I'll pivot to the final story that I think made a really big impact. Act Blue is a fundraising platform used by Democrats and Democrat causes and progressive causes. And that's now involved in a court case in Wisconsin. We broke the story of that on the Windsor Report. Mark Block filed the lawsuit there. We'll continue to report with him, as well as the America First Policy Institute that is representing him in that court case. But we also know that Congress is now investigating Act Blue, and
It's political money laundering.
political money laundering. They call it smurfing. And so, real small example, anecdotal evidence. Mark Block has received over 600 letters from campaigns thanking him for donations. And he goes, I didn't make any donations. And so you go, well, wait a minute, where'd that money come from? Now they're suspecting that money could have come from China, Iran, Russia, who knows, but money found its way in. So when you look at someone like Kamala Harris going, look at all this money we raised out of the gate. Okay, let's be honest. Some of that was Joe Biden's money transferred over to you. And the other part that you say you raised in all these small dollar amounts, you look at Act Blue and you go, well, how much of it was just money laundering?
I smell rat there.
100%. Yeah. And so then back to this idea of money and influence, I think I had this as my number 2, is the work that we did on the union hustle. And we were able to, in a very tight, factual way, through a 4-part docuseries, take viewers through the process of how labor unions have become this massive mechanism for influence in politics, not only in America, but in Ohio.
And they do it on the backs of their members, which was one of the things that, without government, there is no union. That was one of the things in that documentary I remember sticks with me. Without government, there is no such thing as a labor union because of the way they're structured. It's in its own form money laundering.
It is, and they will try to argue these points back and forth about their pensions. I think this is going to continue to be in the spotlight because their pensions are broke. They're mismanaged, and a lot of the dues that they collect get returned to politicians and activism that really doesn't have a lot to do with protecting the worker or making sure that those workers that work hard their entire lives can actually retire at some point and have a meaningful retirement.
That is something that Vivek and Elon Musk are going to have to figure out, because that always leads to a federal bailout of those. And it was $90 billion when Joe Biden did it.
Yeah, and then you get the Sherrod Browns of the world who that becomes their PR. They travel the state and go, oh, look, I'm saving this. And well, actually, you're part of the party that has destroyed the process, that has bankrupted the worker. And so we've got to really make sure we connect the dots in the next couple of years on that problem of union influence in politics.
Yeah, the private sector should not be bailing out union pensions anymore.
Never.
So, all right, those are good. Anything else you're looking forward to? What do you see in 2025? What are you watching? What's the number one thing you're watching?
Springfield, Ohio.
Okay.
Because I think that will tie to the other big thing, which is what is this Trump administration going to do to make sure that people who are here illegally are taken out of the country. Now, I think they'll do that in tiers, right? They probably want to get the people with criminal records identified, apprehended, and removed.
It's interesting. Others. Springfield, Ohio will be a microcosm of the country, won't it?
It 100%
what happens there might be reflective of what happens on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Because that has everything. Money from NGOs. It has immigration. It has illegal acts by people breaking the law openly. I mean, it's got a lot of things that piss people off. Crime, education's in trouble. I mean, it literally has a microcosm and a study of what might happen. I guess you could say if you can clean Springfield up, you can clean up everything else.
100%. I think the other thing is WWDD. What would Doge do? What are they going to do in the new year? I think there's a lot of excitement and anticipation. And with that excitement and anticipation comes opportunity for both success and failure. And so I think it's going to be critical that there is something that happens within that organization, whether it's slashing the Department of Education. I don't know, but I think that's going to be a key story, particularly in the first 180 days to.
Yeah, let's see if those federal workers come back to the in-person work. That'll be curious too.
Yeah, well, there's a huge numbers. It's something like 94%.
Yeah,
that's crazy. What do you think?
What do I?
What are the big stories for you in 25?
I'm going to watch the economy. I'm going to watch if we really do under Doge get into more of an open market, free market system, because that affects what you were talking about with the union hustle. If we start to get rid of things that basically artificially prop up with government money, anything from an NGO to labor unions or whatever you want to do, when they are protected with rules that cost the taxpayer money, I'll be curious to how quickly Elon and Vivek can address some of those things. To me, that's low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
those are things you just say, that's wrong. You cannot, it kind of is federal money laundering. I mean, there's a lot of, it's like, we are artificially going to prop up the price of this. We're going to selectively give it to you. This is now at a higher cost, which means the taxpayers are paying more for something under an open bid that should have been less cost. And then the excessive, at least a portion of that, then gets redistributed in the form of political contribution. It kind of works that way. We spent last year doing a lot of research on that. I think you got to stop programs like that, and they go on at universities with grants. They go on with grants to NGOs, the Aspen Institute, all of that garbage. If that could go away, I think we'll all be better off for it.
And they go on in places like
So I'm going to
Columbus,
watch.
Ohio, where they build the airport.
Yeah, so I'm going to watch if I think as Doge goes the country. I really do.
Couldn't agree more.
So, Jack, have a nice New Year.
You as well, sir.
Be safe. Don't drive tonight. In the meantime, you also have a nice New Year. We will be back here next year, which is next week, on Grab Your Gear. Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy the last part of 2024, and we will see you in 2025.
Happy New Year, friends.